The CEO looked directly at me across the boardroom table and smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile someone gives when they believe they've already won. Then she said the words that still echo in my mind. After today, no one will even remember you worked here. Around the table sat 12 executives, investors, and lawyers. Everyone was waiting for the final meeting before signing a $950 million deal. And somehow, I had just been erased from the very project I created. But there was one small detail the CEO didn't know. The technology behind that deal belonged to me. My name is Emily Carter, and 2 years earlier I joined the company as a senior systems engineer. At that time, the company was struggling. Revenue was falling. Investors were nervous. The CEO, Victoria Kane, had a reputation for being ruthless but brilliant. People feared her, but they also believed she could save the company. I was hired to work on experimental infrastructure technology, something risky, something expensive, something most executives believed would fail, but I believed in it. For 2 years, I worked almost every night past midnight. While other teams left the office at 6, I stayed. Testing, coding, rebuilding prototypes. Sometimes I slept on the couch in my office. Slowly, the impossible started working. The system I built could reduce operational costs for massive corporations by 30%. The numbers were unbelievable. When the first test results came back, my entire team was shocked. But the biggest surprise came when Victoria Kane suddenly became very interested in the project. At first, she congratulated me. She told the board that I was a valuable engineer. But then things started changing. Press interviews about the project started appearing, except my name wasn't mentioned. Victoria began presenting the technology as her strategic vision. At first, I didn't mind. I thought it was normal. CEOs take credit for things sometimes. As long as the project succeeded, I was okay with it. But over time, the situation became stranger. Emails about the project. Projects stopped including me. Meetings happened without my knowledge. My own team began reporting directly to the executive office instead of me. One afternoon I walked into a conference room and saw my presentation slides on the screen. Victoria was presenting them to investors, without me, without even mentioning me. That was the first moment I realized something was wrong. Still, I kept working, because deep down, I believed the truth would eventually come out. I was wrong. 6 months later, something important happened. The prototype finally worked perfectly. It passed every major test. The system was ready to be sold to large corporations. That night, I stayed in the office alone looking at the final documentation. And something inside me told me to be careful. So I did something small, but very important. I filed a patent application for the core technology architecture. Not under the company, under my own name. At the time, it felt like a precaution, nothing more. I never imagined how important that decision would become. 3 months later, the company announced the biggest opportunity in its history. A global tech conglomerate wanted to purchase and implement the system. The deal was worth $950 million. Investors celebrated. The company's stock jumped overnight. And suddenly, Victoria Kane was everywhere. Business magazines, tech conferences, television interviews. Everywhere she went, she spoke about the revolutionary technology. But she spoke as if she created it. My name completely disappeared. Then one morning HR asked me to come to their office. They said the company was restructuring leadership. And my role was no longer required. Just like that. 2 years of work ended in a 10-minute meeting. As I walked out of the building, I passed the large banner in the lobby. It read, "The future of corporate infrastructure." The system I built. The one they were about to sell for nearly $1 billion. But strangely, I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because something important had already been done months earlier. The patent. A week later, the news exploded across the tech world. Victoria's company was preparing to finalize the $950 million agreement. The signing ceremony would happen after the final legal verification process. It was supposed to be a formality, but during that verification, the lawyers discovered something unexpected. The core architecture of the system was already patented, under a name that wasn't the company's. Mine. 2 days later, my phone rang. The caller ID showed the company's main number. When I answered, I heard a voice I recognized instantly. Victoria Kane. Her tone sounded very different now. Calm, careful, almost polite. "Emily," she said, "there seems to be a misunderstanding regarding a patent filing." I stayed silent. She continued speaking. She said the company would be happy to rehire me immediately. Then she mentioned a promotion, then a very large financial bonus. But by then I already understood the situation. Without my authorization, the company couldn't legally sell the technology, which meant the $950 million deal was in danger. For the first time, Victoria Kane needed something from me. Permission. Over the next week, several lawyers contacted me. The company tried negotiating. They offered money, a leadership position, even stock. But something about the entire situation felt wrong. 2 years I had built that technology, and when it became valuable, they erased me. So I made a decision. I declined their offer. 3 weeks later, the news broke publicly. The deal collapsed. Investors panicked. The company's stock price dropped sharply. Analysts demanded explanations. Then the board of directors began investigating what happened. They discovered something shocking. The CEO had fired the lead engineer who legally owned the core patent behind the entire system. The board was furious. Within days, Victoria Kane announced her resignation. Officially, it was called a leadership transition. But everyone knew the truth. Her career at that company was over. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened to me. Another technology company contacted me. They had followed the entire story. Instead of offering me a job, they offered a partnership. They wanted to license my patent and build the system properly, this time with my name attached to it. 6 months later, the technology finally launched, just like I always imagined. Major corporations adopted it. The system became incredibly successful, and every article about it mentioned one name: mine. Sometimes I still remember that moment in the boardroom, when Victoria Kane smiled and said, "After today, no one will remember you worked here." She thought she had erased me, but the truth is, she only erased herself, because the technology they tried to steal was never theirs to begin with.